Essentially, the governor seemed to be suggesting that with everything happening on the southern border, that Texas, had limited resources that needed to be allocated there as a priority. I also got the sense that the governor felt like Texas's leadership in the past was sufficient, and that that they had satisfied a role, and that had been played, but that was now part of Texas's history, as opposed to its kind of present and future. Texas has always been a beacon of hope for refugees fleeing persecution, war, violence. Refugee resettlement has always been a bipartisan issue. Actually, we've resettled more refugees under Republican than Democratic administrations. President Reagan actually resettled the highest number of refugees of any president, and so it was really a devastating blow to a century-old legacy of America being a leader on welcoming refugees, and Texas being the state that has led the charge in this effort. Over the last 10 years, Texas has accepted about 58,000 refugees. But bear in mind, this decision comes at a time when in the last several years, the numbers have steeply declined. So in the last 3 years, we've seen the national number go down from 110,000 to simply 18,000 at this moment. And so, I just want to be clear that we're not talking about a massive influx of refugees at this point. For Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Services, the organization that I lead, we've worked with local communities across the state, particularly in Houston and Fort Worth. But in the last few years, even our efforts have decreased from resettling 674 refugees to only 75 refugees last year. It's devastating. There are families that have been waiting literally years to be reunified with family members, and to have gone through all the hoops, the extreme vetting that refugees go through, both through the UN as well as through our federal agencies, including the Department of Homeland Security, the State Department, et cetera, to now learn that finally they can be resettled to the US, but they can't actually be reunited with their families, is heartbreaking. What this decision is it's a heavy-handed ruling that will prevent local leaders. It'll disempower local leaders from making a decision based on what their constituents want. And I can tell you from speaking to local leaders, this is really going to be devastating. While I am obviously deeply disappointed by the governor's decision, I'm not altogether shocked in that in 2015, Texas made a similar call to close its borders. And this is where we truly hope that the courts will provide the legal relief, just as they did in 2015, in blocking this ruling, which is why we, even before this decision came out, we actually had filed a lawsuit against President Trump's executive order.